Usually, when we see a capacitor, we only think of electronic circuits. But what if we use it to build an antenna? Today, I'll try to test that idea with a simple DIY project. Let's see whether it actually works. First, I strip the ends of the capacitor wires to make the upcoming connections easier and more secure. Next, I use a wooden board as the base for the antenna. Then, I apply hot glue and firmly attach the capacitor to the surface of the board. In the next step, I use a phone SIM card as the central connection point for the antenna system. The SIM card is compact and has a flat surface, making it a convenient platform for organizing the connection points. I apply a small amount of super glue and secure the SIM card to the center of the wooden board. Next, I use a marker to draw the wiring layout on the board. I mark 6 main connection points, with 3 on each side, to keep the wiring organized, balanced, and easy to assemble. Once the layout is complete, I install screws at each of the 6 marked positions. These screws will act as connection terminals, securing the wires and forming a strong electrical connection system for the antenna. Next, I solder 6 solder pads onto the surface of the SIM card chip. These solder pads create new electrical contact points, making the wire connection stronger and reducing the risk of poor electrical contact during use. After that, I also add a small solder pad to the head of each screw. The solder increases the contact area between the wires and the screws, making the upcoming soldering process easier and creating a stronger electrical connection. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss my latest videos. Here, I have several short copper wires that will serve as the signal paths. These wires will connect the marked connection points on the frame to the 6 solder pads on the SIM card chip. First, I solder 3 copper wires to the 3 solder pads on one side of the SIM card. Then, I solder the remaining 3 copper wires to the other 3 solder pads on the opposite side. Once completed, all 6 signal paths are in place and ready to be connected to the remaining parts of the antenna. Next, I twist the remaining copper wire ends around the screws to connect the entire antenna circuit together. This wiring layout brings all the connection points toward the center, creating a cleaner signal path while making future inspection, maintenance, or modifications much easier. Here, I have a phone charging cable that I will reuse as the connection cable between the antenna and the signal cable. First, I remove the outer insulation from the charging cable. Inside are several small wires with different functions. I keep the red, black, and white wires and cut away the green and blue wires since they are not needed for this project. Next, I strip the ends of the remaining 3 wires to expose the copper conductors. First, I solder the black wire to the D- connection point. This will serve as one of the signal paths in the circuit. Next, I solder the white wire to the GDP connection point. Finally, I solder the red wire to the D+ connection point to complete the remaining connection. In the next step, I connect the capacitor. First, I solder the capacitor's black wire to the 3.3V point. Then, I solder the red wire to the VCC point. Next, I use a copper spring as the signal receiving element of the antenna. I solder the spring securely to the connection point labeled signal. At this point, the antenna's electrical system is complete and ready for the next stage of assembly. Next, I use a signal cable as the connection cable between the antenna and the TV. First, I strip the insulation from one end of the cable to expose the inner conductor. This prepares the cable for the connector and ensures stable signal transmission. Next, I attach a TV connector to this end of the cable. The connector allows the cable to plug directly into the TV's antenna input, while providing a secure electrical connection. Then, I wrap electrical tape around the joint to reinforce the connection and protect it from becoming loose or short-circuiting during use. I repeat the same process on the other end of the cable to create another connector. Here, I have a single electrical socket, which I will reuse as an intermediate connector between the antenna and the signal cable. First, I disassemble the socket. Then, I connect the 2 cable wires to the 2 metal terminals inside and tighten them securely to ensure good electrical contact. Once the wiring is complete, I reassemble the socket. This socket will serve as an intermediate connector, making it much easier to disconnect, reconnect, or replace the signal cable whenever needed. Finally, I plug the antenna connector in a modified phone charger. Then connect the charger to the socket attached to the signal cable. Now, I'm going to test it in real-world conditions to see how effective it really is. First, I'll switch to a TV channel to check the signal reception without connecting the antenna. As you can see, without the antenna connected, The TV only displays the message, no signal. Next, I'll connect the DIY antenna to the signal input on the back of the TV for the actual test. And here is the result. Almost immediately after connecting the antenna, the TV channels begin to appear. The picture is clear, the colors remain stable, and there are no continuous signal interruptions. To make the test more convincing, I'll perform one more experiment. I disconnect the antenna from the TV and observe the signal changes. As soon as the antenna is unplugged, the screen instantly returns to the no signal message. All channels disappear, confirming that the signal truly came from this homemade antenna. Now, I'll reconnect the antenna once again. As you can see, within just a few seconds, the channels reappear and continue working normally. This proves that many electronic parts that seem to have only one purpose can be reused in completely different and surprisingly useful ways. Not only does this save money, but it also opens the door to many more exciting DIY ideas. If you enjoyed this project or found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support motivates me to continue creating more repair, recycling, and DIY projects in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.